Kufhei, Amud Aleph, middle of the page. A little bit past the middle. We're starting from the word Levi. Levi nafak lekriyasa. Levi went to the villages. Kiryas village. Right? Levi was a student of Rebbe. In the Yerushalmi, we actually have the story that Levi was sent by Rebbe. This community asked for a rabbi, and they sent Levi. Rebbe, who was the teacher, sent his student Levi to be the rabbi there. And they put him on this platform, and they asked him all the questions that they had, and he got proud being on the platform, and he forgot his learning. So they sent him back. A praba? Okay. So he comes to the village. Here's what they asked him. Can a woman that doesn't have arms, can she do chalitza? Can she remove his shoe with her teeth? So that's one question. Yevamos mahu. Let's say the Yevam, instead of spitting saliva, she spat blood. Okay. Then it says, quotes a pasuk in Daniel, but the angel was telling Daniel, but I will tell you what was inscribed in written with truth. Michlal, that implies that there's something written not in truth. Levi doesn't know the answer. So he goes to the base medrash. Does it say that the chalitza, that she does chalitza with her hand? That's not necessary to be with the hand. It doesn't have to be specifically with the hand. It could be with the teeth. Miksiv v'yarka, right? Does it say that she'll spit saliva? She'll spit whatever it is, and even if there's something else mixed in, blood or whatever, but there'll be saliva there, and that will be spit. Is there something in heaven that's not true? Like kasha. It's no question. This pasuk. It depends if there was an oath that went along with the verdict that took place in heaven. If there was an oath that went along, then it's never changed. But if there was no oath, then it could be retracted, and that's not considered emes.
Wow.
God took an oath.
Yeah,
he made an oath to like Am Yisrael.
Right. So he took an oath with it, then that's what's going to happen.
It's a strange concept. Well,
let's take a look. Rav Shmuel Barami, like Rav Shmuel Barami said, Rav Shmuel Barami, Rabbi Yonason. Rav Shmuel Barami says, name of Rabbi Yonason, min layin negusar din sheish mishvur sheina miskareya. How do we know that a verdict, a decree in heaven that never gets tore up, if there's an oath with it? Therefore, I swore to the house of Eli that Eli's family will not be, there will be no atonement for that. The children were corrupt with sacrifices and mincha offerings forever. So it turns out that the oath is there, and it will not be, there will be no atonement for the house of Eli, the Kayan family that came from Eli, that with sacrifices, but with Divrei Torah there is an atonement. Abaya Amar bezevach mincha miskapar b'gemilas chasadim. Supposed to say Torah gemilas chasadim. Torah, he agrees that Torah also. Torah and gemilas chasadim. It can be an atonement for the house of Eli. Well, the Gemara is going to give us some details. Rabba Abaya mid beis Eli kasu. Rabba and Abaya, we had this in Rosh Hashanah, I think. Rabba and Abaya, some say it's Rav and Abaya, come from the house of Eli. Rabba dasik b'Torah chaya arba'in. Rabba that toiled in Torah lived for 40 years. Abaya dasik b'Torah gemilas chasadim chaya shitin shnin. But Abaya, that was Isaac in Torah and gemilas chasadim, he lived for 60 years. Yeah. So Torah kept the rabbi alive they're supposed to pass away at age 18, but they lived an extra, 22 years. And Abaya was 42 years. Tan Rabbanan, it was taught in a Bryce, Mishpacha Achas, Mishpacha Achas B'Yerushalayim. There was a family in Yerushalayim, Shayim Mesim Keben Shmenes Rishana. They were passing away at 18 years old. They came to Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai. There's a problem with this. Obviously, they were getting married younger than that, or else this family wouldn't continue. They must have been getting married, right? Or else there would have been only one generation. What should they do? Maybe they come from the Kayan Gadol Eli, come from his family. And all the people of his house, men will die. That means they'll die young. Go, study Torah, and you live. They went, they studied in Torah, they lived. And they called that family Yochanan because Yochanan gave them that advice. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai.
I think a similar story happened to David HaMelech, who was decreed to pass away. And he
Right.
was always with the Sefer Torah study.
Right. Very good.
Taking a lot of walk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he was also,
he knew his years were short.
he was they told him, he was told that he was going to pass away on Shabbos, so he would study Torah on Shabbos. The bird story?
Wasn't he on the ladder or something?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
He was distracted.
I thought
Step.
the step broke or
Yeah,
something.
step.
Okay. Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Unya Amar Rav. Rav Shmuel Bar Unya says the name of Rav. Minayin l'gzardin shel tzibur she'ein nechtam. How do we know that a decree on a community is not sealed? Where it says ein nechtam, it's not sealed. Vaksiv ki im techapsi baneser v'tirbi lach beiras nichtav avaynech lefanai. Because if I wash with soap and I increase the soap, not there are different types of soap. Your sin is written before me. How do we know that even though the decree was sealed, but it still gets torn up? Who is like Hashem, our God, when we call to Him, whenever we call to Him, but it says, seek God when He is found. This is a Gemara, Rosh Hashanah, right? And Brachas, actually, this Gemara is. Like Kasha. There's a difference between if the community prays or if an individual prays. Community prays, they always, whenever they pray, it's good. And when an individual prays, it's not always. It's only sometimes, right? A minyan. It's the advantage of the minyan. Yachid Emas. So when does the individual get answered? It says, Dirshu Hashem bihi matzoi, when he is found. We said that's talking about the individual. So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravo, Elo Asar Yam Shmein Rosh Hashanah Liyam Kippurim. These are the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, which is really there's only 7 in between. But we mean including Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. Shalcha Leil Avud Shmuel. They asked Shmuel's father. He's been around several times already. Yevamos Shirak Gadam. If the Yevama, when she was spitting, she spit out blood. Tachlitz. It's considered a good chalitza. Well, what it means is that she cannot do yibam. It's considered enough of a chalitza that she's at least forbidden to do yibam. Because it's impossible that there's no little bit of spit inside that blood. The Gemara has a question. If a zav or someone is bleeding from the mouth or bleeding from the male organ, say it's tummy. It's not tummy. His spit is tummy, but the blood that comes out isn't tummy. How's that possible? We're saying now that if the Yevama spits, there has to be spit in it. If the Yevama spits blood, there has to be spit in it. Now you're telling me that if the Zav spits blood, there's no spit in it. The Gemara says like kasha meitzetzes kam b'sheises. Depends. Is it dripping out or is he spitting it out? If he's spitting it out, then he's collecting the saliva in it. There's spit that's coming together with the blood. It's just dripping out. Then there's no spit in it. Okay. Now the Gemara says cheresh shenechlatz. A deaf mute that did chalitza. Then it says etc. Or a katan, a child that did chalitza. It says it's possible. Talking about that the brother-in-law, the deceased brother is a child, is a minor, he does chalitza, it's not a good chalitza. You have to wait till he's of age 13 or something. Remember that story with King Solomon? They cut the baby, they cut the baby in half. Remember that story? So the Meiri learns that it's talking about that it was a case of Yibam, because it was a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, and they didn't want to wait for him to become 13. So this one said that he was that it was her child. Oh really? You had to do chalitza?
No, his wife, she's married to another man. We're having children. And the only brother was infant.
Oh.
She waited 13 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So he turned 13 when she married.
Wow.
Wow.
Let's take a look at this. I'm a
13-year-old?
no. She did chalitza.
She did chalitza with 13
And then she
years.
married.
Amar Rav Yehuda Rav. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, we're talking about the child that did chalitza. Zu divrei Reb Meir. This is Reb Meir that says that the chalitza is pasul. Now, when we say the chalitza is pasul, what we really mean is that the chalitza was done, and therefore she cannot do yibam anymore. But it's not a satisfactory chalitza. A chalitza that's pasul doesn't mean that it was nothing. It just means that it wasn't satisfactory, but it still messes up a potential yibam. But the chachamim say it's even less than that. It's totally nothing, and therefore, what the katan did, it's not that it's pasul; it doesn't even exist, and yibum can still be performed. Kitana shechalza, we quote the Mishnah. We say that was also pasul. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Zu divrei Reb Meir. That's what Reb Meir says, that if the widow is a child, is a minor. The Amar, because Reb Meir says, Ish kasuv beparsha makshinan ish ish. What was the pasuk? Ish. If the man does not want to do yibum, it says man. That means that it has to be an adult. It has to be bar mitzvah. So we compare the man to the woman. Just like the man needs to be bar mitzvah, so to the woman needs to be bar mitzvah. Chacham say ish ksiv b'parsha. The man, it says in that passage, isha ben gedela ben katana. But we don't compare the woman to the man. The woman could be even a child, and that chalitza is still satisfactory. So that as long as the man is 13, the woman could be a child as well.
I always had the impression that they didn't really have bas mitzvahs back then.
Right. Yeah,
That's
that was they didn't have the
just a
party.
hunch.
Right. They didn't have the party. The party is a new thing. Who made the bas mitzvah party? Mordechai Kaplan. The reconstruction. Yeah. But I think we
is
bought
that a
into it
bar mitzvah
because
party in general, like bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, both. Or?
no, they had a bar mitzvah party.
Oh.
It was a little shot of
Right.
vodka, and that was the whole thing. But the bas mitzvah is a modern thing. We bought into it because of the benefits that you get from it. And she says a Dvar Torah, which is good. Maybe there's achlata or something. Okay. Man chachamim. Who are these chachamim that say that? Who are these chachamim that say that a woman doesn't need to be mature to do chalitza? She could be a child. Who is that? Say Rabbi Yossi. It's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Get ready for a story over here because it's like this long story. And the end of it, we're going to have, it's Rabbi Yossi. You'll see how this works. The Rab Chiya Rab Shimon bar Rebbe Haviyasi. Reb Chia and Reb Shimon, Rebbe's son. Yeah, Reb Chia is a student of Rebbe. Remember, Reb Chia was the one that authored the Brises. And Rebbe Yudah Nasi has a son, Reb Shimon. He has a son, Rabbi Gamliel as well. Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel Benoy Shal, right? And Reb Shimon. So Reb Chia and Reb Shimon are sitting. Pasach Chad Minayu, one of them opened up. He said, comment, someone that prays has to put his eyes downward. That means he has to face Yerushalayim. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Shlomo Melech dedicated the Beis Hamikdash. So it says over there that the response he got by Ye'eni v'libi sham kol hayamim, that my eyes, Hashem says, my eyes and heart will be there all the days. That means that you have to pray. The prayers will be answered when they're prayed towards the Beis Hamikdash. The Chadam, the other one says, Einav l'mayla, your eyes should be above. Shenemar nisa levavenu al kapayim, we raise up our hearts towards the clouds. So, if that's the case, then you have to face heaven. I guess put your head upward. Adahachi, while they're having this conversation, this is Reb Chia and Reb Shimon. Also, Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi lagabai. Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yosi, comes along. Amalahu, he says, "B'mayas kisu, what are you involved in? What's the conversation here? Amalei betfila. We're talking about davening.
Is this the direction you pray, like
yeah.
Mizrah? Oh, it is. I thought it was just up or down with your head.
They're saying, he says that you have to face east. Well, it is east because we face east because that's where Eretz Yisrael is.
Yeah.
But if you were in Bavel, you would face west.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in Australia, you face north. You know. So, Amalahu. So he said to them, "Kacha maraba, my father, who's the father of Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi? Rabbi Yosi. Checking if your coffee is still working. So I'm a spal al tzarich shitnein. Okay. I'm a spal tzarich shitnein of lamatav liba lamayla. Someone that davens has to put his eyes downward and his heart upward. To satisfy both of these requirements. Since he faces Eretz Yisrael or Yerushalayim, and his heart is facing upwards. His kavanah is facing upwards towards heaven. While they're having this conversation, Rebbe enters. This is like a play. No, even if not. Yeah. Inu the Havik Klili. So those two, which is Reb Chia and Reb Shimon, they were very light. Telling us their weight now. Yasiva b'duchtayos. So they sat down where they were. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. They went, and that doesn't say where they were. They went to their places. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi, Agav Yukri have a mefseya v'azal. Because of his weight, because of his heaviness, so he was going slowly to his place. Amalei Avdan. So one of the students of Rebbe, his name was Avdan. He said, "Mihu zeh." Al Rashi Yam Kadesh. Who's this that's walking over the heads of the holy nation? He's commenting on his. He's going slowly. So Amalei. So he says, "Ani Yishmael bar Rabbi Yosi shabasi l'lmei Torah Rebbe." I'm Yishmael bar Rabbi Yosi. I'm coming to learn Torah. Amalei v'chiyata hagan l'lmei Torah Rebbe. You think you're so worthy? You can learn Torah from Rebbe. Amrilei v'chi Moshe haya hagan l'lmei Torah pi agvura. So he responds, "You think Moses was worthy of learning from Hashem?" Amalei v'chi Moshe atas. He says, "Oh, you're Moses." Amalei v'chi Rabbach Elikimo. And so he tells him back, and is your teacher God? Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef comments, "Shakli Rebbe lemitrafse, the Kamalach Rabbach v'lei Rebbe." I don't know what mitrafse really means. He got his payment. That's what it sounds like, because Rebbe was listening and Rebbe didn't respond. He could have protected Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. He didn't. And now when Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi says, "Is your teacher God?" which was his teacher as well, but the fact that he said your teacher, so that sort of was like a payment for not protecting Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi in this conversation.
Wow.
Okay, while this conversation is going on, so everything is wild. While they're talking, while they're this. And meanwhile, a Yevama comes in. Amalei Rebbe Lavdan Puk Badka. Go check if she is mature. I don't know how he's supposed to check. Is he actually going to check if she has pubic hairs? Doesn't sound appropriate. Maybe he's going to get a woman to check. Labasa Denafik. Okay, he goes out. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel. He goes to check her. Okay. Rabbi Shmuel says to Rebbe, Kacha Marabba. My father has a comment on this. His father is Rabbi Yossi. Ish ksiv beparsha, aval isha ben gedel ben ketana. The woman does not need to be mature. It's only the man that needs to be mature. Remember, this is how we got into this. He said, who are the chachamim that hold a woman doesn't need to be mature? So this is Rabbi Yossi. And here we have Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi saying that. Amalei ta says to Avdan, come, leitzrichas. We don't need your examination. Kvar hayr zaken. We already have the psak from the elder, which is Rabbi Yossi. Kamafsa Avdan vasi. Now Avdan is walking over the crowd to his place. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi mishet tzarich lai am kaddish yifsal rashi am kaddish. Someone that's needed by the nation could walk over the nation. But mishein tzarich am kaddish hech yifsal rashi am kaddish. But you that weren't necessary, in other words, because I was the one that said the psak over here, in the name of my father, Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi, saying, so I was necessary. But your whole thing wasn't even necessary. We don't need you to examine. So you're going to walk over the Am Kaddish. Amalei Rebbe Lavdan kum beduchtech. He says, stay where you are. Rebbe says him. Tana, I think that means it was taught. Va'isha and it's Tara Avdan. At that moment, Avdan got saras. Tavush Nebanov, his two children drowned. Mian Ushtei Kalesav, and his two daughters-in-law did Mian. They rejected their husbands. They walked out. He was left really like with nothing. Amrav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Brich Rachmana the Kasvil Avdan Bahai Alma. Nachman Yitzchak says, blessed is Hashem that Avdan was embarrassed in this world. It's funny that it doesn't say, and that's not funny, it's like surprising. It doesn't say all the other things, just that he got embarrassed. I mean, there's other things that happened here, more than the embarrassment. But, right. That's a good question.
But he wasn't really cursing. Because it says in English, presumably if the suffering in this world, he can receive his eternal
reward. Right. But apparently we're not supposed to say like, it's for the best. You don't really tell the person that's suffering. You should know it's for the best.
Is this for
doesn't sound nice.
Because people say like Gamzu Latova.
Right, but yeah, that you're supposed to say for your own situation. You're not supposed to say.
Oh, you don't say that for someone else?
No, you don't say like if someone loses their wallet or something.
Oh,
you don't say Gamzu Latova.
You don't.
You don't know. You help them find it.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
You also get more friends though.
So, yeah. Amar Rabami midvarav shel Berebi. Rabami says from the words of Berebi. Berebi means the great one. Rabbi Yossi. Nilmaid, we can learn that katana cheletzes bepeutes. That a katana, a young girl, can do chalitza bepeutes. Peutes means young. What's the age of Putes? I think Rashi said between 6 and 11 or something. What was it?
6 and 7.
Even if she's 6 or 7. 6 or 7. Okay. Rav Amrad Shadigi Darim. Rava says no. She has to be at least 11. Not 12. She doesn't have to be 12, but 11 is good. Einas Nadarim means that the vows are considered a vow. That's 1 year before the bar or bas mitzvah. The hilchas and halacha is not like any of them. That they actually have to be mature, not like Rabbi Yossi. That was surprising after all of this to conclude that it wasn't really the halacha. Okay. Chaltza b'shnayim. Chalitza was done, but he didn't have a bezdin there. You only had 2 people, or if you had 3, but one of them was a relative. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Minyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, Ein halacha kaisa zug. There was 2 sages that said that they said it was Reb Shimon and Reb Yochanan Sandler that they said that it's kosher even without a bezdin. So, in the name of Reb Nachman, Reb Yossi Bar Minumi says that that's not the halacha. Gemara asks, "V'amar Reb Nachman chadazimna." Amar Reb Yossi Bar Minumi, Amar Reb Nachman chalitza b'shleisha. We have another statement from Reb Nachman that you need 3 people for chalitza, and now you have a statement that says the halacha is not like that pair. So, if that's the case, why does Reb Nachman have to say this twice? Gemara says tzrichi, it's necessary. Diat marach kamaisiv would only said the first one. In halacha cases, I guess have a mina hanimila lechatchila. Have a b'diavad afilu trey, but b'diavad 2 is good. Kamash malan in halacha cases zug. No, if it would have said the kamaisa, that would be chalitza b'shleisha, that you need 3 people, a bezdin for chalitza. So then we would have said that that's the chatchila. But if you have 2, then b'diavad it's okay. It's kamash malan that ain't halacha kaisa zug, that even 2 is no good, because over there they said machshirin, that's a case of after the fact. Yashmin ain't halacha kaisa zug. If we only would have had the halacha is not like that pair, elaketana kama havamina diavad, I would say that that's only b'diavad. Avalachatchila liboy chamisha. I would say that b'diavad 3 is good, but lachatchila I need really 5, because we have another opinion, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, that said you need 5 people for chalitza. Tzricha, it's necessary to have both these opinions that less is not kosher b'diavad and more is not lachatchila. 3 is 3 lachatchila and b'diavad. It is what it is. Okay. Ma'aser shechaltzu. The Mishnah told us that there was a story.
Didn't we get into this, that we only needed just
3.
the Yevama and the other person?
Yeah, we had a story that was in
before.
in the prison where there was a chalitza that was done with just them 2, just the Yavam and the Yevama, and Rabbi Akiva said that it was kosher. So that's what we're quoting now. Ma'aser shechaltzu chulu. Beinoi lebeinam miyadana. You're telling me that the story was that there were only 2 people there. How do we know what happened? But there were witnesses outside that tell us what happened. There's a question. There's a historical question. Rabbi Akiva was in prison when before. Well, I don't know if this was before he was killed. Rabbi Akiva was killed by the Romans, but he was in prison. So when it says there was a story in prison, we're not sure if it means that there was a story where the 2 people were in prison. It doesn't mean there was a story that they brought the case in front of Rabbi Akiva while he was in prison. That's sort of obvious from the Mishnah that they were in prison. But shechalatz beinai lebeina bebeisa asurim uba ma'aseh lefnei Rabbi Akiva. Maybe there was a different girsa that says bebeisa asurim ba ma'aseh lefnei Rabbi Akiva. If you drop the vav, then it's possible to put a comma. Shechalatz beinai lebeina bebeisa asurim ba ma'aseh lefnei Rabbi Akiva. In the prison, the story came to Rabbi Akiva.
This is a man and a woman, right?
Yeah.
Coming in front of Rabbi Akiva.
No, the story came to Rabbi Akiva. Yeah. So, okay, really, what's the difference? I don't know what the difference is. It's a historical question. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Beis Asur Ma'aseh Beis Asur Ba Ma'aseh. It was in prison, and it came to Rabbi Akiva in prison. The whole thing was in prison. Okay. Yeah. How does the Gemara know that this is the answer? Tosfos discusses this. Yeah, Tosfos actually mentions that maybe it's missing the vav in Ba Ma'aseh Lefnei Rabbi Akiva. That fits now. Apparently, there was a conversation with Rabbi Yochanan and Sandler and Rabbi Akiva. They were talking, and with like codes about, he had a shaila and he shouted something, he's selling things, and they responded back, and that was like the answer to the question, but he wasn't really asking it as a halacha question. He was asking a halacha question, but he was saying it in the code, and then Rabbi Kiva responded in the code. Tanur Rabbanan. Time to go on.
There's so much time.
You know, it's
Some of us were
Okay,
done.
let's leave it at it right here. Kuvav, right on the top of the page. Let's go.
almost Kafkas Simon,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Sell it. Pick out, that's high lowest.